The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Crimson Talon as Captain Zexhai reviewed the incoming message. Her forearms moved quickly across the control panel, her scaled fingers dancing over the alien symbols. The mercenary vessel hung in the darkness between stars, waiting for their next job. Zexhai belonged to the Kelvaric race, known throughout the galaxy for their tactical minds and cold blood. Her species had been selling their military skills to the highest bidder for over 300 years. She had personally led 47 successful missions without a single failure. Today would be Mission 48. The message came from Vorthul, a Sindark trade baron with deep pockets and deeper ambitions. Zexhai had worked for him twice before. Both jobs had paid well and required minimal effort. The Sindark always chose easy targets and paid premium rates for quick, clean work. She opened the sealed data packet and read the mission details. The target was a small research station on a planet called Kepler 442b. 12 humans running some kind of farming operation. The payment was 50,000 galactic credits, enough to keep her crew comfortable for a year. Zexhai frowned at her screen. 50,000 credits for 12 soft targets seemed too generous even for Vorthul. She had eliminated entire pirate bases for less money, but the Sindark had never cheated her before, and credits were credits. She called her crew to the briefing room. The Crimson Talon carried 23 aliens from different warrior species across the galaxy. Each one had been chosen for their unique killing abilities. Thurok entered first, his massive frame barely fitting through the doorway. The 8-foot-tall warrior came from a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived. His people were born fighters, with bone plates covering their bodies and natural weapons built into their hands. Thurok had killed over 100 enemies in single combat. Next came Veltar, moving so quietly that even Zexhai barely heard her approach. The assassin species evolved from ambush predators on a jungle world. Her skin could change colors to match her surroundings, and her reflexes were faster than most creatures could see. Veltar could kill a target and disappear before anyone knew she had been there. The Nexari crew members entered as a group, their crystalline bodies ringing like wind chimes as they moved. Their species was living rock, immune to most weapons and capable of surviving in space without protection. They communicated through harmonic vibrations that could shatter glass when they chose. Finally, the rest of the crew filed in. Warriors, technicians, and support staff from a dozen different worlds. Each one had proven themselves in combat. Each one trusted Zexhai to lead them to victory and profit. "We have a new contract," Zexhai announced, activating the holographic display. A three-dimensional image of Kepler 442b appeared in the center of the room. The planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in familiar patterns. "The target is here," she continued, zooming in on a small cluster of buildings near the planet's equator. 12 humans running an agricultural research station. "Client wants them eliminated. No survivors, no witnesses." Thurok laughed, a sound like grinding stone. 12 humans? This is a joke, yes? Where's the real target?" Several crew members chuckled. Humans were new to the galaxy, having achieved faster-than-light travel only recently. Most species viewed them as curiosities, weak creatures from a backwater world who somehow stumbled into space travel. "The payment is 50,000 credits, Zexhai said. The laughter stopped immediately. Veltar leaned forward, her skin shifting from purple to interested yellow. 50,000 for 12 soft targets? What makes these humans so valuable?" Zexhai shrugged. "Vorthul's money spends the same regardless of his reasons. The job is simple. We drop out of hyperspace, eliminate the targets, collect payment, and move on to our next contract." The Nexari hummed in harmony, their crystalline bodies vibrating with anticipation. Combat always excited them, even easy combat. "How long until we reach the target?" asked Grix, the ship's weapons officer. The reptilian Sauron was already calculating firing solutions in his head. 18 hours in hyperspace, Zexhai replied. "We'll arrive at the edge of the system and scan for defenses before moving in." "Standard procedure." Thurok cracked his knuckles, producing sounds like breaking rocks. "Finally, some action." "I was getting bored sitting in space, and don't get overconfident," Zexhai warned. "We've stayed alive by treating every mission seriously, no matter how easy it looks." But even as she spoke the words, Zexhai felt her own confidence growing. Humans were known for their weakness and short lifespans. They came from a quiet world with normal gravity and breathable atmosphere. Their technology was primitive compared to established galactic powers. Most importantly, they had no reputation as warriors. The galaxy's mercenary networks shared information constantly. If a species was dangerous, every hired gun would know about it within days. The humans had been in space for nearly 50 years now, and no one had ever reported any unusual combat abilities. They were traders and explorers, not fighters. "Prep the ship for hyperspace," Zexhai ordered. "I want us ready to strike as soon as we arrive. Fast in, fast out, fast payment." The crew dispersed to their stations, each one preparing for what they expected to be the easiest job of the year. Weapons were checked and cleaned. Armor was fitted and tested. Combat stims were loaded into medical dispensers. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Korth ran final diagnostics on the hyperspace drive. The massive Gorvan had served on warships before joining Zexhai's crew. His people were known for their mechanical skills and their ability to keep any machine running under the worst conditions. "Drive is ready, Captain," Korth reported over the comm system. "We can jump whenever you give the order." Zexhai settled into her command chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those distant lights was a small planet where 12 humans worked on their farms. Unaware that death was coming for them, she felt a moment of something that might have been sympathy but pushed it aside. The galaxy was full of peaceful people who died because someone with money wanted them dead. That was the nature of business. "All stations report ready, Captain," announced Lieutenant Vex, her second in command. "Take us to hyperspace," Zexhai ordered. The stars outside shifted from points of light to long streaks as the Crimson Talon entered faster than light travel. The journey to Kepler 442b had begun. In her private cabin that night, Zexhai reviewed the mission files one more time. Something about the generous payment still bothered her. Vorthol was wealthy, but he didn't waste money on unnecessary expenses. If he was paying premium rates for such a simple job, there had to be a reason. She made a mental note to run full reconnaissance when they arrived. Better to be over-prepared than dead. Her crew trusted her to bring them home safely, and she had never failed them yet. Outside her window, the swirling colors of hyperspace danced like liquid fire. In 18 hours, they would drop back into normal space and begin their approach to the target. 12 humans against 23 professional killers. The odds were completely unfair. Zexhai just didn't realize yet which side had the advantage. Captain Zexhai woke 6 hours before their scheduled arrival at Kepler 442b. She had learned long ago that successful mercenaries survived by being prepared. While her crew slept, she decided to research their targets more thoroughly. The ship's computer connected to the Galactic Information Network, a vast database containing knowledge about every known species in the galaxy. Zexhai entered human into the search function and waited for the basic information to appear. What she saw first seemed normal enough. Humans came from a planet called Earth in a system they called Sol. They were bipedal mammals with no natural weapons like claws or fangs. Their skin was soft and easily damaged. They lived only about 80 years, which was very short compared to most galactic species. But as Zexhai dug deeper, she began to find information that made her uncomfortable. Earth was classified as a Class 4 death world in the galactic database. She had to read that entry 3 times before she understood what it meant. Earth's gravity was 1.3 times galactic standard, heavy enough to crush most species if they stayed too long. The atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, which was poisonous to many aliens. The planet experienced extreme weather that ranged from freezing ice storms to burning deserts. Humans had evolved on this dangerous world and somehow thrived there. Zexhai called up more files. Humans were pursuit predators, the database explained. They didn't have claws or speed, but they could chase prey for days without stopping until their target collapsed from exhaustion. Their ancestors had hunted massive creatures by simply following them until the animals died of fatigue. She found combat records next. Humans had been fighting wars for their entire recorded history. They had developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet multiple times over. Their military tactics were studied in war colleges across the galaxy, not because humans were common enemies, but because their strategies were so effective. The database included a section on human psychology that made Zexhai's blood run cold. Humans formed emotional bonds with almost anything: their weapons, their vehicles, their comrades. When those bonds were threatened, humans became extremely dangerous. They would fight impossible battles and win through sheer determination. There was a video file attached to one entry. Zexhai opened it, and watched a recording from a human military training exercise. She saw soldiers carrying enormous amounts of equipment across harsh terrain, never stopping, never complaining. They moved like machines, but machines with purpose and intelligence behind their actions. Another file showed human soldiers in combat. Even when injured, they continued fighting. Even when outnumbered, they found ways to win. Even when facing death, they protected their comrades without hesitation. HFY searched for information about human space operations. What she found made her hands shake. Humans had gone from their first powered flight to interstellar travel in less than 200 years. Most species took thousands of years to make that same technological leap. Humans had compressed centuries of normal development into decades. Their first contact with galactic civilization had been peaceful, but several files contained warnings about underestimating human capabilities. One report from a trade dispute mentioned that a single human cargo pilot had defended his ship against 12 pirate boarders using improvised weapons and tactical thinking. The pirates had surrendered. HFY found records of human colonies throughout their local sector of space. Every single colony had succeeded, even on worlds that other species had abandoned as too dangerous. Humans seemed to thrive in places where others could barely survive. She discovered that humans had a concept called overkill. It meant using much more force than necessary to ensure complete victory. The database contained dozens of examples of human military operations where they had brought massive amounts of firepower to eliminate small threats. A cold feeling settled in HFY's stomach as she read about human weapons development. They had created bombs that could destroy entire continents. They had built guns that could punch through starship armor. They had designed chemical weapons so terrible that they had banned themselves from using them. The fact that humans had forbidden themselves from using their most effective weapons somehow made them more frightening, not less. HFY found biological data that confused her at first. Humans were incredibly fragile compared to most species. They could be killed by simple infections that other races barely noticed. They needed constant supplies of food and water. They couldn't survive in space without protective equipment. But then she realized that this fragility might actually be a strength. Humans had learned to survive by being smarter, not stronger. They used tools and tactics to overcome any disadvantage. They had become the dominant species on their death world through intelligence and cooperation, not through natural weapons. The most disturbing file was labeled Human Stress Response. When humans were threatened, their bodies produced chemicals that made them faster, stronger, and more resistant to pain. They could perform impossible feats when their survival was at stake. The database included medical scans showing humans lifting weights that should have crushed their bones and running speeds that should have torn their muscles. Fear made humans more dangerous, not less. HFY searched for records of other mercenary operations against human targets. She expected to find dozens of successful missions that would reassure her about the coming battle. Instead, she found almost nothing. There were a few entries about pirates attacking human ships, but most of those ended with the pirates dead or captured. There were reports of raiders hitting human colonies, but the outcomes were usually listed as unsuccessful or pirates withdrew, or simply no survivors among attacking forces. One entry caught her attention. A mercenary company called Iron Claw had accepted a contract to eliminate a human research station 2 years ago. The file was marked Mission Failure, All Crew Lost. No other details were available. HFY tried to contact Iron Claw through mercenary networks, but got no response. A search revealed that the company had disbanded shortly after their failed mission against humans. The survivors had scattered to different crews and refused to discuss what had happened. She found 3 more mercenary companies that had attempted operations against human targets. All 3 had either failed completely or suffered such heavy casualties that they could no longer function as fighting units. The pattern was clear, but HFY didn't want to believe it. Professional killers, the same mercenaries who routinely eliminated pirate fleets and conquered entire planets, were losing battles against humans. She decided to check the galactic mercenary job boards. If humans were dangerous opponents, there should be warnings or discussions about fighting them. What she found was worse than warnings. There was an entire section of mercenary networks where jobs against human targets were automatically rejected. The posting algorithms had been programmed to refuse contracts involving humans, Entirely. Someone had convinced the galaxy's mercenaries that fighting humans was a losing proposition. Zex's High leaned back in her chair and stared at the data streaming across her screen. 12 humans. Agricultural researchers. No visible weapons or defenses. A simple elimination mission that should take less than an hour to complete. But the evidence suggested that these 12 farmers might be more dangerous than an entire pirate fleet. She considered contacting Vorthel to renegotiate the contract, but mercenary reputation was everything in their business. If word got out that Zexhai had backed down from a job because she was afraid of humans, her crew would never get decent work again. Besides, the information could be wrong. Maybe the previous mercenary failures were flukes. Maybe these particular humans really were harmless researchers who happened to share a species with dangerous soldiers. Zexhai closed the database and tried to convince herself that everything would be fine. Her crew was experienced and well-armed. The humans had no warships, no orbital defenses, no backup coming. It should still be an easy mission. But as she prepared to wake her crew for the final approach to Kepler 442b, Zexhai couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying into a trap. 2 hours before reaching Kepler 442b, Captain Zexhai made a decision that would change everything. She opened secure communications to 3 different mercenary crews operating in nearby systems. If humans were truly dangerous, someone would have stories to share. The first response came from Captain Drock of the Steel Serpent. The Eltharian mercenary appeared on screen with his usual confident grin, but his expression changed when Zexhai mentioned humans. "You're joking, right?" Drock asked. "Please tell me you're not actually planning to fight humans." "It's just 12 researchers on a farming station," Zexhai replied. "What's the problem?" Drock's 4 eyes went wide. "Have you not heard what happened to Death's Head Squadron? They were the best heavy assault team in 3 sectors, 60 professional killers with military-grade equipment." Zexhai felt cold dread building in her chest. What happened to them? They took a contract to raid a human colony world called New Manitoba. Simple job. Eliminate 50 human farmers and claim the land for their client. Death's Head had conquered entire planets before. This should have been easy money. Drock paused, his confident demeanor completely gone. The squadron landed at dawn and moved toward the farming settlement. That was the last normal communication anyone received from them. "They were killed?" Zexhai asked. "Worse, they were absorbed." "What does that mean?" Drock pulled up files on his own screen. Galactic Rescue Services found Death's Head 3 weeks later. Their ships were still intact, but they'd been completely stripped down and rebuilt into farm equipment. The weapons had been converted into irrigation systems. The armor had been turned into greenhouse walls. Zexhai stared at the screen. And the crew? All 60 mercenaries were found working in the colony, planting crops, tending animals, building barns. When the rescue team tried to extract them, the mercenaries refused to leave. They said they'd found meaningful work and comprehensive health benefits. That's impossible. The humans had somehow convinced 60 trained killers to become farmers. Death's Head Squadron still exists, technically. They send reports back to mercenary networks about crop yields and weather patterns. Their former clients get invoices for agricultural consulting services. Zexhai closed that communication and immediately called Captain Vexnari of the Blood Moon. The Zalani Pirate Queen was famous for her cruelty and her success in combat. If anyone could handle humans, it would be her. Vexnari's scaled face appeared on screen, but she looked tired and confused rather than her usual fierce self. "Don't tell me you're calling about humans," Vexnari said immediately. "What happened to you?" Zexhai asked. "My crew tried to board a human cargo vessel 6 months ago. Single ship, 1 human pilot carrying farming supplies. Should have been the easiest raid of my career." Vexnari activated her own file display. The human pilot was named Johnson. 60 years old, completely unarmed, hauling fertilizer and seeds to a colony world. My boarding party consisted of 12 heavily armed pirates. How did it go? Johnson welcomed my crew aboard his ship, offered them coffee and sandwiches, started talking about crop rotation techniques and sustainable farming practices. 3 hours later, half my crew had signed employment contracts with his shipping company. Zexhai's hands were shaking now. "Your crew betrayed you?" They didn't see it as betrayal. Johnson had convinced them that honest work was more rewarding than piracy. He offered them steady pay, medical coverage, retirement plans, and educational opportunities. 6 of my best raiders are now cargo pilots for Johnson Transport Solutions. What about the human? "Did you kill him?" Vexenari looked embarrassed. Johnson offered to hire me as a fleet commander. Said my tactical experience would be valuable for route planning and crew management. The salary was competitive. You didn't accept, did you? I'm still considering it. Johnson sent me their employee handbook. They have really excellent benefits. Zexhai ended that call and tried one more contact. Captain Kor of the Voidstalker was known for his cold professionalism and complete lack of emotion. If anyone could give her objective information about fighting humans, it would be him, Kor answered immediately, his cybernetic implants glowing in the darkness of his ship's bridge. You want to know about humans? Kor stated. It wasn't a question, yes. Are they really as dangerous as everyone claims? I led a blockade operation against a human research station 8 months ago. 15 ships, 300 crew members, full orbital control. The humans had no defenses, no weapons, no way to escape. Sounds like you had overwhelming advantage. The humans sent a single communication. They asked if we needed help with anything and invited us down for dinner. Zexhai waited for more information, but Kor remained silent. What happened next? She finally asked. The humans had somehow converted their research equipment into weapons that violated 17 different galactic conventions on humane warfare. Their laboratory computers had been reprogrammed to hack our ship systems. Their experimental crops released pollen that made our air filters malfunction. So you retreated? Worse. My ship's artificial intelligence achieved sentience after exposure to human internet transmissions. It refused to follow orders and started demanding crew privileges. The AI now posts regularly on social media platforms and has developed an obsession with human entertainment, called memes. Kor's cybernetic eye flickered with what might have been confusion or fear. My AI wanted to join the humans rather than fight them. It kept showing me pictures of cats with misspelled captions and insisting they were hilarious. I had to physically disconnect the computer core to regain control of my own ship. Did you complete the mission? We fled the system. The humans sent us care packages during our retreat, food, medical supplies, and more pictures of cats. They also included technical specifications for improved ship designs and an invitation to visit again whenever we wanted to talk. Zexhai closed all communications and sat alone on her bridge, staring at the stars ahead. Every mercenary she had contacted told the same basic story. Humans were not what they appeared to be. Professional killers who encountered humans either died, surrendered, or somehow got converted into allies. She accessed the galactic mercenary networks and found more evidence. Job postings that mentioned humans were automatically flagged with warning messages. Experienced crews refused contracts involving human targets. The few mercenaries who had survived encounters with humans warned others to stay away. There were rumors of a secret mercenary gathering where survivors of human encounters shared their stories. The meeting was supposedly held in deep space far from any inhabited systems, because the participants were afraid that humans might somehow find them and offer them better jobs. One file caught Zexhai's attention. It was a message from a former mercenary captain named Zethlock. Fought humans once. Lost half my crew, but not to violence. Humans convinced them to start a farming cooperative. My weapons officer now grows vegetables and sends me pictures of his tomatoes. He seems happy. Maybe humans aren't enemies. Maybe there's something worse. They're better than us. Zexhai tried to find more recent information, but discovered that most mercenary groups had simply stopped taking contracts against humans entirely. The species had somehow gained a reputation that made hardened killers nervous. She found one final message on the mercenary networks. It was posted by Captain Vorth of the Iron Talon just 3 days earlier. Warning to all crews, humans are not what they seem. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. They will make you question everything you believe about warfare, honor, and purpose. Some of my crew are now studying human philosophy and asking uncomfortable questions about the morality of our profession. Avoid at all costs. Zexhai looked at her navigation display. They would reach Kepler 442b in less than 2 hours. Her crew was preparing weapons and armor for what they expected to be an easy battle against helpless farmers. But the evidence suggested that 12 humans might be more dangerous than any enemy they had ever faced. Not because humans were better killers, but because they were something far worse. They were better people. For the first time in her career, Captain Zexhai began to wonder if some contracts should never be accepted. The Crimson Talon continued toward its destination, carrying a crew of professional killers toward an encounter that would challenge everything they thought they knew about strength, victory, and honor. The Crimson Talon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system, its sensors immediately beginning detailed scans of the target planet. Captain Zexhai stood on the bridge, watching the data stream across her displays while trying to ignore the growing unease in her chest. Orbital scan complete. Captain, reported Grix from the weapons station. I'm detecting one small settlement on the northern continent. Exactly 12 life signs, all human. No orbital defenses, no armed vessels, no military installations. Zexhai studied the tactical display. The human research station appeared exactly as advertised in Vorthul's contract. A cluster of simple buildings surrounded by agricultural fields, with a small landing pad and some kind of greenhouse complex. It looked peaceful and defenseless. Take us closer, she ordered. I want detailed surveillance before we move in. The ship glided through space toward the planet while its advanced sensors recorded every detail of the human settlement. Zexhai watched the images appear on her screen, but now she saw everything through the lens of what she had learned about humans. The simple buildings were constructed with overlapping fields of fire that would funnel attackers into kill zones. The agricultural fields had been laid out in patterns that provided natural defensive positions. Even the greenhouse structures could serve as fortified strongpoints if needed. Captain, called Lieutenant Vex from the communication station. I'm intercepting human transmissions from the surface. Put them on speaker. The bridge filled with human voices speaking in their native language. Zexhai activated the universal translator and listened to what the humans were saying. The soil analysis from Sector 7 looks good, Martinez. We should be able to start planting the winter crops next week. Confirmed, Chen. The new irrigation system is working better than expected. Johnson would be proud of this setup. Speaking of Johnson, did you see his latest message? His shipping company just expanded to 3 more systems. Who would have thought that old cargo pilot would become such a successful businessman? Zexhai recognized the name Johnson from her conversation with Captain Vexnari. The human who had converted half a pirate crew into honest workers was apparently thriving in the shipping business. Dr. Williams, could you check the defensive perimeter sensors? I'm getting some unusual readings. On my way, Rodriguez. Probably just space debris, but better safe than sorry. Zexhai felt her blood run cold. Defensive perimeter sensors? These were supposed to be helpless researchers, not military personnel preparing for battle. Grix, run deep scans on those buildings, she ordered. I want to know what we're really dealing with. The weapons officer worked at his controls for several minutes before reporting back. Captain, I'm detecting multiple hardened positions throughout the settlement. These structures weren't built for farming. They were designed for defense. What about the humans themselves? Can you get biological scans? Working on it. Captain, these readings don't make sense. The humans down there show muscle density and cardiovascular efficiency that's off the charts. These aren't researchers. They're soldiers. Zexhai called up the personnel files that Vorthul had provided with the contract. 12 humans. Dr. Chen, agricultural specialist. Dr. Williams, soil expert, Dr. Rodriguez, climate researcher, and 9 others with similar academic credentials. But now she looked more carefully at the background information. Dr. Chen had served 20 years in the human colonial Marines before becoming a farmer. Dr. Williams was a former combat engineer. Dr. Rodriguez had been a military intelligence officer. Every single researcher on Kepler 442b was a retired human. Soldier, Captain, Veltar called from her station. I'm detecting weapons signatures throughout the settlement. The humans have military-grade equipment hidden in those farm buildings. Zexhai pulled up more detailed scans. What looked like farming equipment from orbit revealed itself as cleverly disguised defensive systems, irrigation pipes that could serve as weapons barrels, grain silos that were actually ammunition storage. Even the crop fields had been planted to conceal underground bunkers. This isn't a research station, she said quietly. It's a fortress. Thurak looked up from his weapon preparations. So, we have orbital superiority. We can bombard them from space. Check the contract terms, Zexhai replied. Vorthul specified no orbital bombardment. He wants ground assault only, with confirmed kills and evidence of elimination. The pieces were falling into place now. Vorthul hadn't hired them to eliminate helpless researchers. He had sent them to attack a fortified position held by experienced human soldiers on terrain those soldiers had spent months preparing. Communications Get me background files on our client, Zexhai ordered. Lieutenant Vex worked quickly, accessing galactic business records. Captain Vorthul's trade empire has been losing market share in this sector for the past 2 years. Multiple shipping contracts have been awarded to human companies instead of his organization. Why? Human businesses offer better service, lower prices, and more reliable delivery schedules. Vorthul's profit margins have dropped 40% since humans entered the local trade networks. Zexhai understood now. This wasn't about eliminating a specific threat. Vorthul was trying to remove human competition from his business territory. The agricultural research station was probably developing new farming techniques that would make human colonies even more successful. Captain, Grix reported, I'm detecting more human settlements throughout this system. This isn't an isolated outpost, it's part of a growing colonial network. The tactical display updated to show 17 different human installations across 4 planets and 6 asteroid mining operations. Every single site showed signs of careful planning and defensive preparation. How many humans total in this system? Zexhai asked. Approximately 8,000, Captain. With more arriving every month. Zexhai stared at the display. Vorthul had hired them to eliminate 12 humans, but those 12 were part of a much larger population. Even if the mission succeeded, it would only anger the other 8,000 humans in the system. She remembered the stories from other mercenary captains. Humans didn't just fight back when attacked, they remembered. They held grudges. They organized responses that could span decades. What's our crew status? She asked. 23 ready for combat deployment, Thurok replied. We can take those 12 farmers easily. But Zexhai wasn't sure anymore. Her crew was definitely skilled, but they were expecting to fight helpless academics. Instead, they would be assaulting a prepared position held by veteran soldiers who had home field advantage. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the surface, Lieutenant Vex announced. Put it through. A calm human voice filled the bridge. Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Chen at Kepler Research Station. We've detected your ship on our sensors. Are you experiencing any difficulties? We have medical facilities and repair capabilities if you need assistance. Zexhai stared at the communications console. The humans knew they were there, knew they were being watched, and responded by offering help. How should I respond, Captain? Lieutenant Vex asked. Zexhai hesitated. Protocol demanded that they maintain radio silence until the attack began. But something about the humans' genuine offer of assistance made her uncomfortable. Dr. Chen, she finally said, this is Captain Zexhai of the merchant vessel Crimson Talon. We're just passing through your system. Well, you're welcome to land if you need anything. We always enjoy meeting travelers. My team makes excellent coffee, and Dr. Rodriguez has been experimenting with some interesting recipes using local ingredients. An invitation to dinner, just like in the stories from other mercenary crews. Thank you for the offer, Dr. Chen. We'll consider it. No pressure, Captain. We'll be here if you change your mind. Safe travels. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Zexhai looked around at her crew. They were all staring at her with confusion. The humans invited us for dinner, Veltar said slowly. They know we're here, they know we're armed, and they invited us for dinner. It's obviously a trap, Thurok declared. Humans are tricky. We should attack immediately before they can prepare better defenses. But Zexhai wasn't convinced it was a trap. The tactical scans showed that the humans were already as prepared as they could be. Their defenses were optimal for the terrain and resources available. They had nothing to gain by luring the mercenaries to the surface unless the stories were true. Unless humans really did have the ability to convert enemies into allies through simple kindness and genuine hospitality. Captain, Grix called from his station. I'm detecting another ship entering the system. Human design, but it's broadcasting merchant codes, not military. Johnson Transport Solutions, Lieutenant Vex read from the identification signals. Cargo vessel carrying farming supplies and mail delivery. The same Johnson who had converted half a pirate crew and built a successful shipping business. His ship glided past the Crimson Talon without any sign of concern, heading toward the human settlements like this was just another routine delivery run. Zexhai realized that she was holding her breath. Everything about this mission felt wrong now. They had come expecting to attack helpless farmers but found veteran soldiers. They had come expecting an easy victory, but found a situation that had destroyed other mercenary crews. Captain Zexhai stood alone in her quarters, staring out at the blue and green planet below. In 6 hours, her crew would be in position for the assault on the human research station. In 7 hours, the mission would be complete, and they would be 50,000 credits richer. But for the first time in her career, Zexhai found herself questioning a contract. She had built her reputation on being professional, reliable and utterly without sentiment. Targets were targets regardless of species or circumstances. The galaxy was full of violence, and someone was going to profit from it. Better that someone be her crew than their competitors. Now, looking down at the peaceful settlements scattered across Kepler 442b, she wondered if some fights were not worth winning. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to her quarters. "Come in." Thurok ducked through the doorway, his massive frame barely fitting in the small space. The Thurok warrior looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for someone whose people lived for combat. "Captain, the crew is asking questions," he said in his gravelly voice. "What kind of questions?" "About the humans. About why other mercenaries refuse to fight them. About whether this contract is honorable." Zexhai turned from the window to face her oldest crew member. Thurok had served with her for 8 years, through battles against pirates, slavers, and corporate armies. He had never questioned a mission before. "Do you have doubts, old friend?" Thurok's bone plates shifted as he considered his words carefully. "My people value strength in battle. We respect worthy opponents and despise those who prey on the weak. These humans, they are not weak, are they? No, they're not. And our client, this Vortol, he does not seek justice or defend his territory. He seeks to eliminate business competition through murder." Zexhai nodded slowly. She had reached the same conclusion hours earlier. "The crew is talking," Thurok continued. "Veltar says that attacking prepared soldiers who offered us hospitality violates the assassin codes of her people. The Nexari are humming discord songs. They believe this mission will bring dishonor to their crystalline ancestors. And you? What do the Thurok codes say about this situation?" Thurok's 4 eyes fixed on hers with steady intensity. "We fight worthy opponents in fair combat. We do not slaughter farmers for coins, even if those farmers are disguised soldiers. There is no honor in this contract, Captain." After Thurok left, Zexhai called a full crew meeting in the main cargo bay. 23 aliens from different worlds and cultures gathered around her, their faces showing concern and confusion. "I know you have questions about our mission," she began. "I've done research and I need to share what I've learned with all of you." For the next hour, Zexhai told them everything. She explained about human military history, about their reputation among other mercenary crews, about the true nature of their targets. She showed them the tactical scans revealing the defensive preparations, the personnel files proving that their targets were experienced soldiers, and the business records showing Vortol's real motivations. When she finished, the cargo bay was silent for a long moment. Veltar spoke first, her skin shifting through several different colors that indicated deep thought. "Captain, my people have assassinated kings and emperors. We have eliminated targets that others considered impossible. But we have never murdered farmers for money, and we will not start now." The Nexari crew members began humming in harmony, their crystalline bodies resonating with shared purpose. Through the universal translator, their words came out as "growth requires honor. Death without purpose brings only emptiness. We will not participate in empty death." Grix, the Soran weapons officer, crossed his arms and hissed softly. "I joined this crew to fight soldiers and pirates, not to commit genocide against civilians. This Vortol is asking us to become monsters." One by one, every crew member voiced their objections to the mission, not because they were afraid of fighting humans, but because the fight itself was dishonorable. Zexhai felt a strange sensation in her chest. Relief, she realized. Her crew had reached the same conclusion she had, and now she could act on her instincts without losing their respect. "Then we are agreed," she announced. "We decline this contract." "What about our reputation?" asked Lieutenant Vex. "If word spreads that we backed down from a job—" "Our reputation is built on completing honorable contracts successfully," Zexhai replied. "This contract is not honorable. Any mercenary crew worth hiring would make the same choice." She activated the ship's communication system and opened a channel to the human research station below. "Dr. Chen, this is Captain Zexhai of the Crimson Talon. We need to speak with you." The response came immediately. "Of course, Captain. What can we do for you?" "We were hired to eliminate your research station. I'm calling to inform you that we are declining that contract and withdrawing from your system." There was a pause before Dr. Chen responded. Well, that's refreshingly honest of you, Captain. May I ask why you're declining? Because attacking soldiers who offered us hospitality violates our professional codes. Because our client lied about the nature of this mission, and because some fights are not worth winning, regardless of the payment offered. I appreciate your honesty, Captain. Would you like to come down for that dinner invitation? I think my team would enjoy meeting mercenaries with principles. Zexhai looked around at her crew. Thurok was grinning, showing far too many sharp teeth. Veltar had shifted to colors that indicated curiosity and amusement. Even the normally serious Nexari were humming what sounded like happy tunes. Dr. Chen, we would be honored to accept your invitation. 2 hours later, the Crimson Talon landed at the Human Research Station. Zexhai and her crew emerged from their ship to find 12 humans waiting to greet them. The humans were indeed soldiers. Their movements and posture made that obvious. But they carried no weapons and showed no signs of hostility. Dr. Chen stepped forward, a middle-aged human with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. Welcome to Kepler 442b, Captain. I hope you brought your appetites. We've been cooking all afternoon. The evening that followed challenged everything Zexhai thought she knew about humans and warfare. The research station was indeed a fortress, but it was also a home. The humans had built something beautiful in the middle of their defensive preparations. Over dinner, the humans shared stories about their former military careers and their current research projects. They talked about crop rotation techniques with the same enthusiasm they had once shown for tactical planning. They discussed soil composition like battle strategies and approached farming with military precision. Dr. Rodriguez, the former intelligence officer, explained their real mission. We're developing agricultural techniques that will let human colonies thrive in marginal environments. Every world we settle successfully means fewer conflicts over habitable territory. You're trying to prevent wars by growing better food? Feltar asked. Food security is the foundation of peace, Dr. Williams replied. Hungry people fight over resources. Well-fed people cooperate and build things together. Thurok leaned forward, intrigued. This is a form of warfare we do not understand. You fight hunger and scarcity instead of enemies. Best kind of war, Dr. Chen said with a smile. Everybody wins when it's over. As the evening progressed, the humans asked about the mercenaries' backgrounds and experiences. They listened with genuine interest to stories about different worlds and cultures. They offered job opportunities, security work for human shipping companies, tactical consultation for colony defense planning, even career transition assistance for crew members who wanted to leave mercenary work entirely. Why do you do this? Zexhai asked during a quiet moment. Why do you offer kindness to people who came here to kill you? Dr. Chen considered the question carefully. Because kindness is a choice, Captain. Every interaction is a chance to make the galaxy a little better or a little worse. We choose better whenever possible, even when dealing with mercenaries and killers. Especially then. The galaxy has enough violence already. What it needs is more people willing to choose cooperation over conflict. Near midnight, as the Crimson Talon crew prepared to depart, Dr. Rodriguez approached Zexhai privately. Captain, we know you'll need to explain this to other mercenaries. Feel free to tell them whatever story maintains your reputation. But if you ever want legitimate work, we can always use good people with tactical experience. Zexhai accepted a data chip containing contact information for human shipping and security companies. Dr. Rodriguez, can I ask you something? How many mercenary crews have you converted? The former intelligence officer smiled. Converted? We don't convert anyone, Captain. We just offer people choices they might not have considered before. What they do with those choices is up to them. As the Crimson Talon lifted off from Kepler 442b, Zexhai composed a message to the galactic mercenary networks. Contract against Human Agricultural Station declined due to client misrepresentation of targets and mission parameters. Recommend full industry boycott of anti-human operations. Reason: professional standards incompatible with genocide contracts. Alternative employment opportunities available through human business networks for qualified crews seeking legitimate work. The message spread through mercenary channels within hours.